Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Pastor Sherry with Healing Place Ministries. And tonight I want to just simply say that I am not a fan of Jesus. Yes, I said it. I am not a fan of Jesus. After all of these years, I am making a declaration that I am not a fan of Jesus. Well, before you go off and before you start frowning and disconnecting and wondering, what am I talking about? I'm going to share it with you. When I say that I am not a fan of Jesus, I'm a follower of Jesus. And there is a difference between a fan and a follower. For example, for those who are like me, who are Whodats or Saints fans for life, that means that we are not just fans of the Saints, we are followers of the Saints. We are with the Saints, good, bad, ugly, when they let us down, when they give us joy. We are with the Saints. We are Saints fans. I am a Saints fan. Even when I was in Wisconsin, when everybody else was cheering for the Green Bay Packers, I still gave a loud, strong hoodat because I am not just a Saints fan, I am a follower of the Saints. But I want to suggest tonight that many people are fans of Jesus, but they are not followers of Jesus. Well, what are you saying, Sherry? I am saying that just like some people will jump on the bandwagon of the Dallas Cowboys now that they are winning and they are in the playoffs, it's because they are doing something. They are performing well. And that's how it is with some people with Jesus. As long as Jesus is performing miracles in their lives, as long as Jesus is doing miraculous and giving out stuff, they are with him, which means that they are simply fans of Jesus and not followers. You see, a fan of Jesus is one who knows about Jesus, may even be close to Jesus, but has not gotten to the place that they want to actually follow Jesus. For example, when Prince died earlier this year, there were people all over the world crying that Prince had died. I too love Prince, but I didn't know Prince. I knew of Prince. I was a fan of Prince, but I didn't have an intimate relationship with Prince. So it is with George Michael, who just died. People all over the world are crying because they are fans of him. They loved his work, but they did not have an intimate relationship with him. I want to suggest that even in the Bible, that people only follow Jesus when Jesus was doing big things. For example, if we look at John 6, where Jesus feeds the 5,000, there were people coming from all over when they heard that Jesus was near because they wanted him to replicate the miracle. They wanted something from him. They wanted the big things. Let's not throw shade on those in the Bible, because we have gotten to the point, some Christians have gotten to the point that they like the pomp and the circumstance. They like the big productions. They like the programs, the concerts, and all of these things, the wow factor. But guess what? That only creates fans. That does not create followers. It will only last so long. You will have to have a concert or big production or theatrical performances every day to keep a fan, because we know just as soon as our favorite artist does not produce music for a long time or to our liking, we will get rid of him or her, put him down, and pick up another. I want to suggest that's how we do with Jesus. If Jesus is not doing what we need to be done to keep us entertained, then we put him down and pick up another. Check your own paper. Are you a fan of Jesus or a follower? Now, I want to suggest that we have done a disservice to people in our worship services because we try to draw people with a lot of programs, productions, and events. Now, I will let you know that will bring people, but it will not keep people. It will not keep people, and you will have to do it over and over and over. It won't keep people. Helping people to become fully functioning followers of Christ, helping them to become disciples. And by the way, Jesus never told us to make members. He told us to make disciples. We make members by productions, events, and programs, strategic plans. We spend hundreds of dollars developing mission statements when Jesus already gave us a mission statement. The last words that Jesus said before he ascended was to go and make disciples. Go and replicate me. A disciple is a student learner. Jesus is the master teacher. Programs, productions, theatrics won't do that. It may draw them, but it will not keep them. In fact, I'll let you know, it will cause a swelling because people gravitate to that. But I will also let you know that a swelling is a sign of infection. And eventually, infection, in order for it to get better, you have to allow the infection to come out. So, Jesus even said in John 6:66, after he understood that the people were following him for signs and wonders and miracles. Well, before we get to that, Matthew 6:25 and 26 says, when they found him on the other side of the lake, they ran him down. Jesus tried to go to the other side. They ran him down because they wanted something from him. They wanted a miracle. They wanted a sign. They wanted a wonder. And Jesus answered, I tell you, you are looking for me, not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. In other words, you want more of what I can do for you and what I can give you. Now, don't get me wrong. We do know that Jesus, God, is the supplier of our needs, but we need to check our motives. We need to check our motives. And guess what? After Jesus checked them, when we get to verse 66, he says, from this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. And guess what Jesus told the rest of them? Do you want to leave too? Because if you do, it's okay. Everybody will not stay when they are only fans of Jesus and not followers of Jesus. We must become followers. And to become a follower, we must learn what Jesus taught and then replicate that. The reason why many of our churches are dying is because we have created an atmosphere full of members. And members join, pay their dues, and when they don't like what's going on, they leave. But a disciple, a follower of Jesus, is committed to the teaching of Jesus and will do what Jesus is doing. In this season, we don't need fans. We need followers. We need people who are committed. Now, I understand that when people leave our churches, we running and trying to figure out what's wrong, come back. But Jesus told these people, he wanted to know who else needed to leave. You here and you're following me because of what I'm doing, what I can do, or what you want because you got your bellies full. Let them go. He didn't run after them. I would rather have a few committed disciples than I would a church full of members, because members come and go. So how do you know if you are a fan or a follower? Number one, you might be a fan if you confuse your knowledge with intimacy. Just because you know about Jesus doesn't mean that you have a close relationship with Jesus. Just because you can quote the book does not mean that you have a relationship with Jesus. There are people who study the book because they like knowledge, but they have no intention of being followers of Christ. So check yourself. Are you a fan? If you are, you may be confusing your knowledge with intimacy. Here's another thing. You might be a fan if you have a hard time identifying any sacrifices you've made for Jesus. In other words, it's never really cost you anything. You're okay with just going to Sunday morning worship, perhaps on a Wednesday night, but there is no sacrifice. You have not counted the cost. You have not denied yourself. Jesus said, if you want to get in this thing with me, you have got to be willing to deny yourself, forsake your mother and your father. Now, you mean to tell me I got to leave my family? What Jesus is saying is that your priorities must be in order. Check your paper. What sacrifices have you made? What has this thing cost you to follow Christ? Here's another way you can tell if you're a fan of Jesus or a follower. You might be a fan if you find that you're comfortable. We are called to carry the cross. If you are comfortable, if you are okay to come on Sundays and get your sugar high, to get your fluff, if you're okay with that, you might be a fan and not a follower, because a follower has to take up the cross, the burden of this great gospel that we've been given. Check your paper. Are you a fan or a follower? I suggest today that I don't want to be a fan of Jesus, because there are some times when Jesus is quiet in our lives. There are no miracles. Things are going as if God is far, far away. But just like I'm a who dat for life, I'm a God dat for life. Not a fan, but a follower. What? Check your own paper. Jesus, again in John 6, feeds these 5,000. He has this group of people, and the next day they come looking for more food, and Jesus says, look, no more free food. I am the bread of life. He takes it from the natural. You're looking for something in the natural to satisfy your bellies, to satisfy your flesh, to entertain you, to wow you. And the Bible says again in John 6:66, from that point on, many who had been traveling with him no longer followed him. They turned and went home. So there's this distinction between those who were traveling with Jesus and those who were following Jesus. Let me say that again. There is a distinction between those who are traveling with Jesus, but they are not following Jesus. Oh, preacher, what are you saying? We may be on the same road as Jesus. We may be traveling I-55 at the same time Jesus is traveling, or I-10 or I-94. We're on the same road, but we side by side, and sometimes we pass Jesus up, and sometimes Jesus is following us. His car is behind ours. But if we are following Jesus, we are in step with him every step of the way. Check your own paper tonight. Are you traveling with Jesus, or are you following Jesus? Because there is a big difference. There were those who were with Jesus for the free food and the bread and the inspirational teaching. And while I'm there, we got more preachers becoming motivational speakers than I've ever seen. Inspirational speakers. I have been called to preach. I am clear about that. And if my preaching inspires you and motivates you, then that's all good. Because every good sermon ought to demand a response. That you move in some way. You start something or you stop something. Check your own paper tonight. Are you a fan of Jesus? Are you waiting for him to do the next big thing? Because if you are, it may not come for a long time. So does that mean you jump off the Jesus bandwagon and then go to the person, place, or thing that's giving you your wow? So how do we become followers? How do we become followers of Jesus? First of all, the church has to stop being an entertainment venue. We are the reason why we have created fans, why there are fans. Because we spend millions of dollars. We spend our budgets looking for what can we do? What program can we have? What artists can we bring in? What celebrity preacher can we bring in to bring the people to pack the pews? Well, the pews may be packed, but the next Sunday, those people who you brought this celebrity preacher, singer won't stay. When we create an atmosphere that makes disciples, that replicates the teachings of Jesus, we teach a whole lot of stuff, but we don't teach what Jesus taught. Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, if you want to be a follower of mine, take up your cross. Deny yourself. Get your priorities in order. Make sure your motives are right. I know this might be different teaching tonight, this afternoon, but I guarantee you, if you let it sink in, if you evaluate your own self, at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells of a day where we stand before him and Jesus will say to many, I never knew you. You mean to tell me after I have gone to church every Sunday? You mean to tell me after I have given my time, my talent, and my treasure that you know me not? Yes, because you were only a fan. You were traveling with me, but you were not following me. And he says on that day, many will say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not work miracles? I didn't know you. So we have a culture, even within the church, that people assume that everything is fine, and they point to their spiritual acts as evidence and fruit. But Jesus brings it down to his intimacy in knowing. This knowing and being known. Knowing and being known. Intimacy. How do we develop intimacy? How do we develop intimacy even with our the spouses, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the friends? How do we develop intimacy? By spending time with them and talking to them. We get to know them. A fan is only there for the entertainment. When it's over with, you go home and you wait till the next Sunday's game. But a follower is soaking up everything they can to know who Jesus is. I might be a fan of Drew Brees, but I guarantee you when the game is over, I'm flipping the TV and going to something else. Because I'm not following Drew Brees' every move. I could care less. Because I'm just a fan. But with Jesus, I want to be more than a fan. I want to be a follower. Check your own paper today. Are you a fan or a follower?